everybody. This is Lara, kind of like the Lara bar that you can
Yep.
get at Costco. Now we all know how to pronounce that. I met Lara this summer. No, this winter. It felt like summer though.
Right. True.
I met you like a month ago in Miami, and
That's right.
we were on the dock in front of the pond, and we started talking, and you were telling me your story. Probably asked you like, "What's your story? How'd you get here?" And then you told me like the most profound story ever. And I wanted you to just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep telling me, keep telling me. And then by the time you were like finished telling me the story, I was like, okay, we need to capture that story. We got to put this online for people to hear because this is crazy. You have the, I think one of the coolest stories, one of the coolest stories, mm, about how you found this raw food lifestyle and how it completely changed your life for the better in every single way. So I would love for you to kind of share that with us and let us know how you found it and how it's transformed you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, let me give you some backstory. I was born to a Venezuelan Colombian mother and a Ukrainian father. And my father had heart disease. And when I was 9 years old and my father was 39 years old, he woke up not feeling well one day. And he, long story, was rushed to the hospital and he left his body. He had a near-death experience. And when he came back into his body, he grabbed the doctor's arm and he said, "I got to tell you what just happened to me." And he said, "I don't want to know," and walked away. That experience triggered my mother to do some research on health. And she read a book called The Mucusless Diet by Arnold Ehret. I'm sure you're aware of that book. It's an amazing book. If you haven't read it, please read it. And so she changed my family's diet to back then what was called the macrobiotic diet. I don't know if you've heard of that before, but it's pretty gross. You eat things like seitan and tempeh and mostly grains, little fruit, and a lot of salt, and just it was gross. And so as a 9-year-old, you can imagine that I was just like, yeah, this is disgusting. I don't want to eat this. So my dad would give me money to eat lunch at school and not have to eat the gross stuff that was at home. However, my father's health improved. His blood pressure went down. He wasn't obese. He wasn't super overweight. He had normal, kind of what's normal overweight today. He lost a lot of weight. He got pretty thin. Like I said, blood pressure, cholesterol, everything went down. My mother did the same. She lost weight. They looked fantastic. They were super happy, and it was great, the changes that I remember witnessing in my parents. Um, when I was 15, my parents divorced, and 4 years later, my father died from 5 blocked arteries. So after the divorce, my father went back to eating the standard American diet because he didn't have my mother to prepare food for him anymore. And so he was a piano tuner and he just went back to his old ways and died. I was 19, my sister was 5. It was very, very traumatic for me at
What
that
was he,
time.
what was he, you said standard North American diet.
Yes, standard North American diet,
And
correct.
he died and he was how old? Like 45?
He was 49.
49.
Yep, so he was 49 years old when he died. He had 10 years after that near-death
Was he,
experience.
was he overweight or thin?
So I would say he looked like your average person. He didn't have a gut, but I would say most average people that eat a cooked food standard diet are probably at least 20 pounds extra fat that they carry around. So I would say he was a little bit like that, but I would never, if you looked at him, you wouldn't say, "Oh, he's fat or overweight," at all, at all. So yeah, but his arteries were clogged. And I have that same hypercholesteremia that he had. And my cholesterol currently, the last time I had it checked was like at 232. So it's pretty high, even having been a vegan for a long time, but we'll get to that. Okay, so my father passed away, and I just remember being very afraid that I would die like my father died. So a few years later, I got married. I was 22 when I met my husband, when I married my husband. And I started cooking food for my husband that his mother would make for him because I wanted to be the happy housewife, the good, homemaker. And I started making all the recipes that my mother-in-law fed my husband. And so I was making things that I wasn't used to eating, which was a lot higher in animal products and dairy and things like that. Very, very soon, like right into my wedding. In fact, on my honeymoon, I started getting something called cystitis, urinary tract infections. And I was told that it's called the honeymooner's disease. And I was doing all the right things for hygiene and everything to try to prevent these, but they were incessant. And I would have a urinary tract infection at least once a week, and they would last for 10 days, like for a long time. And it was miserable. Then I also started developing ovarian cysts, and just I had put on weight making all this food for my husband, and I was pretty miserable and very, very depressed. We were married in California, and then a year later moved to Utah, and I really, really, really fell into a major state of depression. I remember going downstairs to the kitchen one night and pulling out a knife and sitting on the floor with this knife and contemplating ending my life. And things were really, really bad. The depression was severe.
The depression was that severe because you were just constantly inflicted with these infections?
I believe that it was the infections. I believe that it was this diet that was extremely excessive because I came from living with my mother where we were eating healthier-ish food, no meat or dairy. And then I started to really eat a lot of meat and dairy. And I personally believe that I was affected by that. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of the pain and suffering that animals feel, that it gets transferred into those products. And when we eat them, we struggle as well. And I don't know about where anyone that's listening to what it's like where you're from, but where I'm from here in Utah and North America, there's a lot of depression and pain and sadness with people. And so I think a lot of it has to do with how we eat. So anyway, I heard a voice that said to me, if you do this, you will leave your body, you will still be depressed, only now you will be even more depressed because now you will be dead and you will feel the pain that you've caused your future children, unborn children, and everyone who knows you. So that stopped me in my tracks. I didn't know what to do with my life after that. The depression was severe, obviously enough to want to kill myself. And I later in prayer received an answer that said, teach aerobics at church. And I remember thinking, what? How am I going to do this? And all the ideas flooded my mind. And I started teaching an exercise program at my church that was free for women to come and to bring their children and work out 3 times a week. And that changed my life for the better because now I started implementing exercise into my weekly life. And I was feeling better. I lost weight and things were growing great. Well, 3 years later, I got pregnant with my first child, my son, and I developed a urinary tract infection that would not go away. And I taught piano and I couldn't go to my lessons. I couldn't go to work. I was miserable. I couldn't even get off of the toilet because a urinary tract infection feels that constant urge of needing to go to the bathroom. And every time you go, it feels like a knife is stabbing you. It's just horrendous, horrendous. And at this time, just a few months prior to this, I had a girlfriend who had just returned from an LDS mission, and she had lost 50 pounds on her mission. She looked fantastic. And she told me about this book called Fit for Life.
What is
Um,
LDS?
say that again.
What is LDS?
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Latter-day Saints, got you.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Latter-day Saints.
friend got back from an LDS retreat.
From a mission, she's lost 50 pounds. And she said everyone on her mission, all the missionaries had lost tons of weight and everybody was healthy and feeling great. So she had told me this story.
What is
And
what is a mission? Like a month on the road walking or?
so a mission for men, it's 2 years and they walk around or bike or drive cars, depending on the area that they're at. And they go knock on doors, door to door
A
for two
mission for
years.
men is 2 years, and how about women?
For women, it's 18 months.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so she came back looking terrific, feeling terrific, talking about this wonderful book. And I was I was so impressed. So here I was sitting on the toilet with this UTI that wouldn't go away. And the prompting comes into my mind to read this book. And I was like, okay, so I got up and I went to the health food store and I found this book and I read it like overnight and decided to throw everything out of my home. So the Fit for Life by the Diamonds is, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a dietary book that promotes being vegan. It promotes eating fruit until noon, but they still use like extra virgin olive oil and they still use some higher fat stuff and they still did cooked food. But my goodness, my health improved so much going vegan. I lost 10 pounds in a week and I only put on 7 pounds my entire pregnancy because I was losing all of the fat, but my baby was growing, healthy and strong. So that was incredible. My husband joined me. He was didn't want to give up his cereal. That was the hardest thing for him to give up was his morning cereal. But after a while, he got on board and went vegan with me as well. So I raised my children. I nursed all of my children for 2 years. I was vegan-ish because after about 3 years of going vegan, we started to cheat every now and again. We'd go to an event and be like, oh, a little bit of fish, or it's okay, just a little bit here and there, here and there. And pretty soon, honestly, I couldn't call myself a vegan again. But in our home, I never bought animal products and I really strived to be vegan. But, with time, when you're not feeding your knowledge, with time, you start to go back to your old ways. And so this is what started happening with us. And I realized it's because I wasn't reading anything. I wasn't nurturing the information. I wasn't continually learning about health and nutrition. I just was like, oh, okay, I'm vegan, sort of. So by the time I was 38, so this was about 13 years later, I was sitting in a meeting and I had an experience where I felt something rush in my head and I started having the feeling that I was going to pass out. They took me to the hospital. They put me on the cardiac floor and I stayed overnight and they did all types of testing on me and they couldn't find anything. During this time, my husband mentioned to me, he goes, honey, for the last year, I've noticed a little rough patch on your labia. And I was like, huh, I hadn't noticed it before, but he mentioned it.
What's a labia?
Labia, the inner folds of before the entrance of the vagina. So in your genitals, the skin on a woman. And so I had some little rough patches there. And I had never noticed them, but he noticed them. And so he brought it up since we were now concerned about my health and what was going on. And so I went to my certified midwives for a checkup. And they told me, they called a doctor in. And the doctor came in and said, you have lichen sclerosis. That's an autoimmune disease that affects the skin. And so I went and got 2 other opinions, and all the doctors said the same thing. You have lichen sclerosis, and we're sorry to tell you that there is no cure and that this will turn to cancer. But here's a steroid cream and good luck. That was my diagnosis. And at the time I was 38 years old. I had a 14-year-old as my oldest and a 4-year-old as my youngest. So I was like, I just had this feeling inside of me that this wasn't a death sentence for me. Like I felt that if I didn't have this before, I should be able to not have it again. Like that was my thinking. If I didn't have this before, I should be able to not have it again. And so, obviously when you're given a death sentence like that, you have two choices. You either choose to, one, accept what they tell you and go, okay, I have this, I'm gonna die. Or two, go, no, there's got to be something else. And that's the route that I took. So I started going everywhere, going to every snake oils, because the medical industry couldn't help me, right? So I had to go out there looking for something else. So I went to every snake oil salesman, I like to call them, that you could find. I spent thousands of dollars on creams, lotions, potions, elixirs, you name it. I bought it, I tried it. I just was desperate. And so one day I was looking for a homeopathic herb called Eleuthero that my acupuncturist, who was working with my neurologist, was having me take. And I would take anything. Everybody would say, do this, do that. Oh, and I must pause and say really quick that if my doctors had said, oh, you have XYZ, and this is the medication, this is the protocol that you're going to do, I would have done it. So I just need to say that I trusted my doctors. I thought my doctors knew what to do, and I would have done what they told me to do. So I consider it a tender mercy that I was diagnosed with an illness that has no cure. And because that put me on my search, and I'm alive today because of it. So I'm super grateful. So I'm looking
I
for
also
the
pause for
solution.
a sec.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you started taking all this stuff, all these different potions, lotions, creams, whatever, tinctures, elixirs. At the same time, were you also trying to get rid of stuff from your diet, or was it just including stuff?
I didn't change my diet at
Oh,
all.
gotcha,
We were vegan, you
gotcha.
know, we were vegan, high vegan, I guess is what I should call it. We were high vegan. That's probably the word. So no, I wasn't really thinking about my diet. I was very, uh, just like thinking there's got to be something like a cream, a pill, a lotion, something, right? So I was thinking that way. Um, anyway, so I'm looking for this Eleuthero, and every health food store where I live here in Utah County, nobody had it. So, and I had my appointment that night. So I was in a big hurry to find this stuff so that I could tell her I took it. And so I drove south more, and I came upon this store that I think it was called Garden of something. And it looked like a health food store. It sounded like a health food store. So I went in, and I walk in, and the woman, Catherine Scott, she asks me, how can I help you? And I say, I'm looking for this Eleuthero. Do you guys sell it? And she goes, no, we don't sell any supplements here. She goes, but what's going on with you? So I told her, and she said, she looked me, I'll never forget it. This was a powerful moment, life-changing moment. She looks me in the eye and she says, 15 years ago, I had stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I healed myself with food. And when she said those words, when she said those words, this powerful energy came through my body and was like, this is it. So she gave me a book. It was called The Raw Life by Paul Neeson. And I bought the book and I read it like in 3 days. And I went to my husband and I said, John, this is it. But I do have to, I remember though, I have to say that in the moment when she was talking to me about this, I remember having the thought, oh man, why does it have to be the food? And I remembered my mother and my father, and I remembered, going macrobiotic, and I remember how traumatic that was for me. So a part of me was like, and having read Fit for Life, you know, And I was in that mode of cheating. And so it was like, crap, it's the food,
Did it feel
it's
like
the,
it would be an inconvenience?
you know, I have to be totally honest. Yes, because part of what I did not tell you in my story that I should perhaps add this extra element. When I was 16 years old, I had a friend who was this beautiful, I do musical theater and sing and perform. And she was this girl that I was in a show with. And she was this beautiful girl, thin, just gorgeous. And she would eat garbage, like total trash food. And she would eat a ton. And I remember asking her one day, I was in the car with her and I said, how do you eat all that crap and be so cute, like thin and beautiful? How do you eat that? And she says, oh, I just throw it up. So at 16 years old, she planted a seed in my mind. And so I developed bulimia after that. I started, and it wasn't like an everyday thing. It was like whenever you would pig out on something, then I'd throw it up. Or if there was a big holiday party with tons of eating, I would throw it up. And it was an occasional thing. But it's soon kind of through those years, throughout my whole life, um, it was something that I would do occasionally. And I'll get more into that a little bit later. But anyway, so for me, changing my diet and having it be about food, now that at this time in my life, food was the thing that I used to comfort myself. As a child, I was beat, I was verbally abused, and I was molested by my father. So these things I struggled with, these pains. And so food was my out. Food was my drugs. Food was the thing that would comfort me when I was feeling depressed, sad, emotional, or anything like that. And so, having it be about food again, food, always food, that was hard for me to swallow, right? But in the Raw Life book, something that I learned, and maybe it wasn't necessarily from the book, but I soon learned going raw that the food was what was causing my depression. Because once I started eating raw, living fruits and vegetables, and the depression just lifted. I was so joyous and happy, and have been able to deal through therapy and other things with my trauma from my childhood and my past, but in a way that was joyful. I don't know. So I have a strong testimony that food affects your mind, your mood, your feeling, your emotions. Cooked food, junk food is very, very depressing to the body. And so if you do have traumas, if you do have emotional pain, it's just even more. So, all right. So I read the book, A Raw Life, or The Raw Life by Paul Neeson. And I went to my husband, and being a Latter-day Saint, a woman of faith, a Christian, I asked my husband, I said, I want to know, what does God say about nutrition? What does God say about food? And this was important to me. And so we went to the scriptures and started looking up, and the first chapter of the Bible, chapter 1, Genesis chapter 1, God creates the world. God creates everything on the planet. God creates the animals. God creates man and woman. And then God tells them what to eat in that
Behold,
order.
behold.
Yeah. I have created every herb upon the face of the earth bearing seed, and every tree in the which there is a fruit bearing seed. To you it shall be for meat. I had never noticed this before. They don't talk about this in church. This isn't stressed, right? That was it for me. When I read that, it just blew my mind. And I thought, oh my gosh, how did I miss this? How did I miss this? God literally told us what to eat. It's right there. So that was it. I went raw overnight. I spent thousands of dollars on, this was 2009. I spent thousands of dollars on every raw book I could get my hands on. And, you know, the internet, YouTube wasn't as big back then. And so there wasn't a lot of people out there, but the people that were, like, I found Mike Arnstein, the fruitarian. He was incredible. I found, there was a lot of people like the Butenkos, the Victoria Butenko, Tanya Zavasta. There were some other people, anyway, that are out there that were great. Salma from Pure Food and Wine in New York. She had written her books with Kenny Chesney or something. Can't remember his name. Anyway, those people, sorry. But I bought all the books and I became a raw chef. I learned how to
did you get the 80-10-10 diet?
not yet. I'll get to it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm gonna get there. I started a raw food support group that met once a week in my home here in Utah County. I started a Facebook group called the Utah Valley Raw Foodies at the time. That's what it was called. And every week people would come to my home. And one week a guy showed up and he goes, you guys do, his name was Angel. He goes, you guys do 80-10-10 here, right? And I'm like, what is that? So he tells me about the book. And of course, the very next day I get this book. I order the book, get it, read it, and I realized, oh, I have to rewind. I'm all over the place on this interview, Ted. I'm so sorry. Let's go back to 2009. So I'm raw and I get all the books and I learn how to make everything, pies, cakes, pizzas, cookies, you name it, bread. I could make it all raw. What I had noticed was that I felt better. I looked better. I lost weight. I was, had a lot of energy, but I wasn't feeling so good eating these high fat cuisine stuff. I didn't know at the time that that's what it was, but that's what it was. I wasn't feeling my best. I would make something and share it with people, but then I wouldn't really eat it because I noticed that I wasn't feeling so good. The other thing I noticed is that the lichen sclerosis was still the same. Nothing had changed, except for a period of time during those first about 2.5 years. During about those 2.5 years, I did a 60-day juice fast. And in that fast, I noticed improvement with the lichen sclerosis. And I know now the reason for that was because I was having no fat at all. It was just juices. So, but I learned that I do not recommend juice fasting. So sorry, everybody out there that really believes in juice fasting. I don't recommend it because I became very constipated. I'd have to drink a tea called Smooth Move to go to the bathroom. So for me, and I was doing juice.
I'm the opposite. If I have like a couple liters of juice, I have diarrhea all day. So I don't recommend juice fasting either because of diarrhea.
See? No juice fasting. You don't juice in nature.
But my friend and I did coconut water each for 21 days. I was pooping like 18 times a day. He didn't poop at all for the first week.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like some people get constipated, some people get diarrhea. It's wild.
That is wild. That is wild. I mean, look, I know that juice fasting has helped people, especially if they have intestinal issues, some type of digestive issue where they don't absorb anything or whatever. Yes, I mean, I recommend it. Maybe not that long, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan. But do I have juice? I have juice every day. I do, but I don't do a juice feast or fast. I don't do that. So anyway, so this guy comes to the meeting and he tells me about 80-10-10. I read the book, of course, overnight. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been doing raw totally wrong. This high nut, high seed, coconut oils, extra virgin olive oil, all this fat to imitate cooked foods was not good. Instantly up the fruit, cut out the fat, like really, really, really barely any. And in 10 months, it took 10 months from the time I read the book to the lichen sclerosis going away. It was like a magic wand. My skin, with lichen sclerosis, you get these white, hard, scaly patches that crack and bleed and burn. And imagine in your genital area, the pain of that was horrible, horrible. But that went from white, little by little, pink, 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 until it was completely gone. 10 months from when I went low fat. So from the time I went raw to when the lichen sclerosis went away was 3.5 years. But like I said, 10 months from when I learned about the low fat. So I wonder what would have happened if I would have read 80-10-10 first, how quickly I would have healed. And for sure, I would have healed much faster, 100%. So anyway, I started eating low fat raw vegan, was feeling great, was, it was wonderful. I was really happy. I instantly got onto all the support groups online for lichen sclerosis. And I told my story, and I was kicked out because they told me that you cannot come on here and say that you cured lichen sclerosis because there is no cure. You're just in remission. And so, I mean, I knew that I wasn't in remission. And oh, by the way, it's 2024. That was 2012. And still am lichen sclerosis free. So I just want people to know that, yeah, there is a cure. The cure is removing the cause, and the cause is our diet. We just need to start feeding the crop. So anyway, about 4 years later, my husband, who every single Johnson male in his family has died from prostate cancer, he started getting prostate issues. His numbers were bad, and one day he had a fever and was very sick and was peeing blood, and we were on vacation in Florida and it was horrible. And I was like, oh honey, you just have a UTI. And I'm like, you can do it. I've had a million of these. You'll be fine. And I was so wrong. He ended up getting worse, and we took him to an Instacare, and the doctor said, if you would have waited a few more hours, you'd been dead. You're septic. So
What does septic mean? Like within his body, he's like,
septic means the infections spreading all throughout the body. And that goes fast, and
what
it
does the
kills you.
doctor do to like prevent him from dying in that moment?
They had to give him high antibiotic or he would have died.
Kill all the bacteria that was being spread around.
Yep. So I mean, at the time, that's what we needed to do. This is before going raw. So sorry, this was before I went raw.
Yeah.
4 years after reading 80-10-10, sorry, with the timeline, my husband started having pain, back pain, really bad, lower back pain, like in his hips. So he went to his physical therapist, and he did everything the physical therapist told him to do religiously. He's really good about that. All of the stretches, everything they said, and went to him regularly, but there was no change in the pain. So he decided to go to a chiropractor, goes to the chiropractor for adjustments, every week, all the stuff, and doing everything that the chiropractor told him to do. Another, a couple months of that, and still the pain was incessant and did not improve. And then he was having more issues with the prostate and had an infection and was really, really sick and was back to the same thing. And I start researching about this, and I realized that he had metastatic prostate cancer. He had every single symptom of metastatic, which means that it had spread into the bone. So he goes to the doctor. The doctor, of course, they want to do a biopsy, but the possible side effects of a prostate biopsy are leaving you impotent and incontinent.
What is
So
incontinent?
means that you can't hold your pee. You have to wear a diaper.
Oh.
And my husband was like, yeah, no,
So,
I'm not.
so impotent means he can't get an erection,
Right.
and then incontinent.
Means you can't hold your pee.
Whoa, and that's like a risk of a biopsy.
Yep. Of a prostate biopsy. And so my husband was,
Sorry. What is a biopsy? What do they do?
a biopsy is that they they go in there into the prostate and they take a piece of it, or they look to see where there's a tumor or a growth or whatever, and they cut that out
Um,
to determine whether or not they have to get the cells of the prostate to see if it's cancerous.
and that can
So
be brutal.
yeah. So we know though, I mean, I'm 100% sure every single symptom that he had was metastatic prostate cancer.
Mhm.
And he looked at me and he said, I'm going to do what you did because I'm not going to do the chemo. I'm not going to do the radiation. I'm not
Yeah.
going to have them cut my prostate out. I'm not going to be impotent and incontinent and I'm in my 40s. Like, yeah, no.
How old is he?
He was in his 40s. He was, let's see, I was 38, 39, 40. He was like, maybe he was like 47, 48, something like that. So there was just no way he was going to do this. So anyway, so he decided to do what I did. And I fed him raw. He was bedridden for a few weeks. And I made all of his food for him, high fruit smoothies. I did juices, salads, all of the fresh, raw fruits and vegetables. And in 2 months, all of the symptoms went away. Everything. Gone.
Uh,
2 months. The back pain, gone.
no way.
Prostate, everything gone. And
Wow.
so he did fully raw for 6 months. And then from then on, he started eating raw until 4. Remember Freely and Durian Rider, the raw till 4. So he started doing that. And the dinner was a whole food, plant-based vegan diet. So that's what he's been doing.
How long
Um,
dealing with those symptoms, like back pain and all the pain and everything before?
months. And the prostate issues had been going on for about 10 years
And then after 2 months on your
on
program,
raw.
yeah,
Yep.
on your
Boom.
style, boom.
On.
And then
It's
you transitioned into eating raw till 4 and high raw.
yes. Yes. And when I got home from Woodstock this year, he told me I'm going raw. So my husband has currently been raw as of tomorrow, 4 weeks,
Wow.
fully raw with me. I'm so
Incredible.
proud. Anyway, okay. So a few years later, when my second child, my daughter, was 17 and she was a senior in high school, it was Christmas and we were laying by the fireplace, and I noticed that she had a lump on her neck, a goiter. And I said, we're going to go get that checked out. So I took her to the doctor and they did, the testing, and they come in and the doctor says, you have Hashimoto's. And the doctor prescribed medication and he said, come back in 3 months and we'll test you again and see how you're doing. We leave the doctor's office. My daughter looks at me and she says, Mommy, I'm going to do what you and dad did. I'm not going to take the medicine. A 17-year-old. Okay. Yeah.
That is
So,
wild. Wait, what was she eating up until then?
so our veganish food, vegan at home.
High
And,
vegan.
but I must say that, okay, I have to clarify this. So when I went raw back in 2009, that was me. I still had to cook for my children and my husband. My entire family was not totally convinced. They
Sure.
didn't really want to do this, but I became much more strict with the vegan diet in my home and outside of the home. We ate majority whole food, plant-based vegan food. So that's how it was in my home. So she was eating pretty well. But kids, in school, there's constantly garbage everywhere. So they would occasionally have things here and there, but they always tried to stick being vegan. But, they're kids and they have to learn on their own.
Yeah.
I couldn't force them. And I want my children to want to eat this way and not to feel forced to eat this way. So anyway, that being said, my daughter developed Hashimoto's. She started eating raw. She would make her smoothies and go to school. She would pack her fruit. She would make her salads for dinner. Did everything raw as a sweet 17-year-old girl in high school when everyone's having pizza parties and, do you know what I mean? Eating garbage and going out to, Burger King or whatever. Like she was sticking to raw. So 3 months later, we show up for the checkup. The doctor comes in looking at the test results, and he's like, huh, wow, well, the medication seems to be working. You no longer have Hashimoto's. And he goes, my daughter looks at the doctor and says, I haven't taken any of the medication, doctor. I've just been eating fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. And the doctor said nothing the rest of the appointment. I'm not kidding. Nothing. And I was like, doctor, you need to tell your patients, isn't it wonderful? They can save money off of the medication. They don't have to buy this expensive medication. They can heal themselves with just fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, completely heal themselves. Anyway, so those are the healing stories in my life, in my family, and I'm so proud of them. And since then, in the support groups that I've joined and all the people that I've met in the years, because when you become a weirdo, a raw food weirdo, like we are, because we're the few on this planet, anybody that eats this way becomes your family. You want to connect with everyone. We have this in common. And I have to say, though, we're not the weirdos. Everyone else is the weirdo, but they don't realize it. We're just eating the diet God intended, you know? And so I have to say that I have struggled with the bulimia for all of these years. And I would on and off do this still. I would eat whole foods, vegan, but I would binge on it, emotionally binge, and then I would purge. And this is something that has been a huge issue in my life because obviously we're human beings. We're not just a machine. We also have our soul and our emotions and our traumas and the things that we've had to deal with in life. And I mean, I don't want to go into everything I've been through in my life and everything that has caused this emotional binge eating and which would cause me to be so sick from eating so much that I'd have to get rid of it because I was in so much pain and discomfort. I have to say that this was still a struggle. So staying completely raw for me was a struggle. But I have to say that it's not because of the diet. It wasn't because it was restrictive or anything like that. I can say that for sure. For me, it was definitely personal and my own emotional reasons. And I have since received help and I've been fully raw, in all of these years since 2009. What is that? Almost over 15 years. I've been doing this. The longest I've been fully raw has been 15 months. And that was of last year. And in March, I started eating some whole food, organic, plant-based, vegan dinners, like doing raw till 4. And I noticed it was just such a struggle for me emotionally. It was like being in this cycle, the mouse going around and around, doing the same thing, expecting different results, eating raw. And then because I'm cooking for my husband and my family, then I would want to taste it and try it. And then I would eat it. And then when I would eat it, there would be a sense of loss of control. Because for me, when I eat cooked food, especially with salt, because I honestly believe that the true addiction to cooked food is not the cooked food, it's the salt. Because imagine anything you can imagine cooked. We're talking pizza, pasta, whatever, burgers. Imagine any of that stuff without salt.
There was there's a nature documentary on YouTube of this white man going to this Amazonian tribe, filming them for the first time. Like these Amazonian people had never seen a white man before. So they're very like cautious of him. Like, what's this guy coming up to our tribe for? This is like back in like the 80s or something. They had a big camera, right? And this and this white man slowly comes up with them. Takes about half an hour for him to actually like touch them. And he makes them some rice, and they've never had rice before, and they eat it, and they're like, "This is disgusting." They push it away. It's freaking gross. Then he takes out some salt, puts some salt on it, gives it to them again. They eat it. They go. The whole tribe goes like crazy. They're like, "Oh, oh my God, come, try this."
Yep.
So the rice on itself, they don't want. It's like they push it away. Add some
Yep.
salt. It's like wow.
Yep. So I have this fantasy of a little movie, just a little movie, and it shows people all over the world eating their ethnic foods, right? Everyone's eating. You see them in every country eating their food. And then like this fairy, this salt fairy waves her magic wand across the world. And suddenly she removes all of the salt from all the food. And then you go back to all these shots of the people eating their food all over the world. And you suddenly see them biting into the food and going,
Yes.
ugh, spitting it out. Everyone would spit out the food with no salt.
Yeah. Well, you
I'm
know,
telling
the,
you,
the
that's
the only ingredient that is in every single recipe of every single recipe book is salt.
yep.
That's the one ingredient that is in every single recipe. I've
Everything.
never ever seen a recipe book without salt.
Yep. And in my
Unless it's a raw food recipe book.
true,
That's
that's
the only
true.
exception.
That's true. But I have to tell you an experience. So like when I eat, we just went to a restaurant. A raw vegan restaurant, when I have vegan dishes, raw vegan dishes, like salads with like these dressings with salt and stuff like that, or crackers or whatever it might be, that's a raw cuisine dish, I'm triggered. I'm triggered. It's like a switch goes off in my mind and I want more. And I feel like I can't stop, out of control. When I have anything with salt, I'm triggered. I'm not satisfied. It's like a switch in my brain does not turn off. Like the satiation, I don't feel the satiation. But when I eat a honeydew melon, or I'm eating my sumo oranges, or I'm having watermelon, whatever it is, I eat that food. And suddenly, whether there's still food in my plate or not, I will get that feeling of I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. I don't want any more. And I don't care if I leave it. I'm like, I'm done. Whereas when it's the cooked food, it's like, oh, I finished my plate, and then maybe I want some more, and I can't stop. It's so I know that I'm addicted or triggered, whatever we want to call it, to binge eat and overeat when I eat salt.
Mm.
And that I know, like I know that sure, I have eaten for emotional reasons and have binged eaten for emotional reasons. But you know what? I have found in the last I've been fully raw since the week of Woodstock, which since the 21st of January. And by the way, I've lost over 12 pounds
Since Woodstock,
since January 21st.
so 12
Yeah,
pounds in 4 weeks.
12 pounds gone. Just being fully fruitarian, high fruit, greens, but mostly fruit.
Amazing.
But oh, this is what I was saying. Um, I don't have, I don't feel those emotions. I don't feel depressed. I don't feel the desire to binge because I'm so fully nourished and satiated and satisfied and happy. Like it makes me emotional. I am so happy eating this way. Like I feel like in my 15 years of doing this, up and down, on and off, going, I have to say in these 15 years, I've been at least 2/3 fully raw. At least. Way more, I'm sure, because there's been so many times that I've been fully raw. But this time is different. This time feels so different for a few reasons, and I want to explain. Um, One is because I think I've been on and off so much. I've really noticed the happiness factor this time, the true happiness that I feel. And I realize, you know what? I'm not really addicted to the food. I'm triggered by the food. I'm triggered by the salt and all the savory seasonings and all that stuff that makes you go, ah, like have this lust for the food. Because when I eat, you bite into a delicious mango or a peach or cherries or blueberries or grapes or, oh my gosh, jackfruit or whatever, durian, you eat these things and they're so satisfying, in every way satisfying, that I don't have the desire to hurt myself and to binge. So last week we went to a nearby raw food place and I ate the most delicious food. And I have to give kudos to every person out there that is trying to promote this lifestyle, that is trying to get people to eat healthier. Like, thank you for these restaurants. Thank you for what you're doing, because you are helping so many people, because it really is a journey for each individual person. But speaking for myself at this point of 15 years of doing this, now when I have something high cuisine, I'm triggered as well. I feel that trigger to like, oh, I've got to eat so much more of this. And brings all those dopamine hit memories to my brain that gets me start thinking about all the things I used to eat that I love to eat, right? And it's like crazy. And so my friend Star Vegan Love, who's been visiting me for the last 2 weeks, she's amazing. She called me out of the blue right before Woodstock. And she called me at a time when I was really low and I was really struggling with staying fully raw. And she became my best friend and became my sort of like just my support system. We need support. I don't care what addiction you have, I don't care who you are, you need support. Whether you're vegan or you want to do raw till 4 or you want to do whatever type of raw, you need a support system. You need help on this journey. You can't do it alone. And the thing that I've realized for all these years is that I've been trying to do this all on my own, alone, and doing it all. And you can't. We need each other. We need support. And so it's been so wonderful having her here. And with my husband now eating raw, it's like heaven. My home is filled with fruit. We share and eat fruit. That's what's on the menu. That's what's in the fridge. That's what we eat.
Yeah.
And it's just so wonderful. And I feel so grateful, just so grateful and so happy. And I have no desire to ever go back, because I kept doing this, like, okay, maybe if I eat this, it's whole foods. It's like, it's really healthy. And, a normal person would be like,
Yeah.
Lara, you kidding me? Like, that's the health, you know, you're eating Ezekiel bread with avocado on it. That's like the healthiest thing you could possibly eat. How can you think that that's bad for you? And I'm like, well, because I wake up the next morning and I feel like
Yeah.
poop. Okay. I have the inflammation. I feel like garbage. And then I'm back in that cycle of depression. I feel like I've broken my integrity to myself, that I keep doing something to hurt myself that I know better, that I know I should be doing better. And then I would eat raw, and then I would be cooking for my husband or something. And then I'd taste a little bit, and then it would trigger me to eat more. And it's this cycle, this never ending cycle of literal hell that I've been on and off and back and forth for gosh, for 15 years. And I'm at a place right now where I just feel freaking amazing. Freaking amazing. And I want to scream from the rooftops to everyone. If you only knew, I have friends right now who have cancer, who are dying from cancer. Okay. Sorry. That I want to help so bad, that are going and getting poisoned. How can something that, if a healthy person took it, would make them sick? How can something like that make a sick person healthy? How does that work? How does the drug know that, oh, you're sick, so now this is going to help you? Oh, but you're healthy and this is going to harm you. That makes no sense. I would rather eat peaches all day long than poison and radiate myself and cut body parts out and take drugs that are expensive and be miserable and lose my hair and suffer like this. I would rather eat peaches and watermelon and grapes and bananas. Are you kidding me? It's so delicious.
Yep.
I just want to send my love to anybody that's watching this and tell you this is the way God intended for us to eat. And we are suffering with diseases and sickness that came after the fall. If you are a Christian, if you're a believer, Adam and Eve, once they left the garden, the fall happened. That's when they started. That's when they were tempted by Satan. That's when we started to adulterate everything that God had given us. We had fallen. So now we started cooking food. We started killing animals and eating them. We started doing all of that. That was after the fall. But our birthright is health. Our birthright is health. The sicknesses and the diseases are a cause because we have adulterated the ways of God. I firmly believe this because I can speak from my experience and my family and dozens of friends that I have made who have overcome rheumatoid arthritis, stage 4 breast cancers, every type of cancer out there, every type of disease, MS, Anecha, my friend Anecha, she was in a wheelchair. You know, Anecha from Woodstock. She was in
Yep.
a wheelchair with MS. And now she's dancing and beautiful and living her life pain-free. Beautiful spirit. So many people that I have met have healed themselves. Star Vegan Love had stage 4 endometriosis, completely gone. She had 15 autoimmune diseases, all of them gone. It's people say it's too good to be true, and I'm like, no, it's true. It's just true. It's true.
Yeah, it's everything you mentioned here, I can totally relate. Everything you mentioned, I've also either experienced firsthand myself and can relate exactly what you said personally, or I know someone who's also gone through something identical to what you just said. So yeah, I can confirm everything you just said is completely legit. And I remember too when I got rid of my acne, I had cystic acne on my face, my chest, and my back. It was disgusting. Like I was a mountainous terrain of zits, like big zits, juicy ones, right? Tried everything to get
Oh,
rid of every potion, lotion, cream.
yeah.
Nothing worked. Nothing worked. For years I tried. And then what happened? I do 80-10-10. Within 2 weeks, it goes away. In fact, it went away so fast that when I finally looked in the mirror, I was in Hawaii one time, I looked in the mirror. My first thought was, damn, I didn't get another goodbye. I didn't have a chance to say goodbye. Like it was just, I didn't get my last farewell. It was gone. Like nothing, I can't bring it back now. Thank God I took some before pictures like a few months earlier because I knew I was going to find a way. So I have epic before photos because I knew I was going to find a way, just like you knew you were going to find a way. So I took it. And then what ended up happening is I told everybody that, hey, I cleared this up within 2 weeks. And then they just said, similar to what they said to you, which was like, they said to me, they're like, oh, that would have happened anyway. It was just a phase you were going through. The diet
Yep.
had nothing to do with it. And
Yep.
so, in same way you post in those Facebook groups, right? They told you, you can't cure it, you're just in remission. But
Ah,
people told me too, they're like, the diet didn't cure it. It's just, you're just out of that phase now, you know? And so they just denied it. Even though it was
yep.
like evidence that eat the diet, boom, cleared it up. They're still in denial. And everything you said about salt is so spot on. So spot on. I was on a ferry ride one time on a boat, and I went to the vending machine to order to get some water from the machine, and all I had was Dasani, Dasani, the brand. So I get a bottle of Dasani, I drink it, and right away I'm like, I'm thirsty and I want another one. So I go and order another one, and I get it, and I'm like, why am I drinking so much water? I look at the ingredients. You second ingredient is salt. Second ingredient, you can't stop drinking that water because it's salt water. You just keep going, going, going.
Telling you, like I want to tell everyone it's the salt, people. If you're struggling to stay raw, it's the salt. If you're craving cooked food, it's if you're eating raw food because it's all cuisine with salt and you're craving cooked food is because you're eating salt.
Yeah.
Cut the salt out and you will not crave cooked food.
cut
I'm
the
telling
salt out and eat enough fruit so that you're satisfied.
you.
So that you're
Yes,
satisfied, and then you won't want the cooked food. Yeah, for sure. Um,
exactly. Makes me
yeah,
so
I
emotional.
could I could talk to you about this for another like 2 hours easily, but
I know.
I'm running out of time. I know you got to run as well. But for those who want to, you mentioned how important support is, and I fully agree. So when they take rats with addictions and they put these rats in a cage with like the drug that they were addicted to, and the rats would go for the drug until they died. Then they took those, like they got rats just as addicted to a drug, but then they took the same
Mhm.
rat, put it in
Mhm.
a community with other rats. Someone there, you need to go? No?
Well, let me come, John, come here for a second. John, come show your face really quick. This is my husband. He just got home from work.
Hello.
Say hey, babe. This is my fruitarian husband now. I'm so proud of
Okay.
him. Like, I'm so proud of him for like joining me. It's like such a blessing. I'm so happy to have him on board with me, but he's amazing. And his eyes have gotten whiter in these last 4 weeks. His skin has started to glow more. He's lost a little bit of chub on his tummy. Like, it is an incredible thing. This food makes you your most healthy, your most beautiful, and you're most happy, healthy, beautiful, and happy.
Congrats on your healing, man. Incredible.
Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Anyways, I'll be right there. Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I was just saying, like they take these rats and they get them addicted, but then they put them in a community of other rats, but they still provide the drug if they want it. None of the rats go for the drug, even though it's right there and they're addicted. And so they said the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, it's community.
Connection. Connection.
Connection.
Yeah. Community.
Yeah. And so people want to find out, they can just Google Rat Park. It's called Rat Park. Type rat park addiction and you'll see like the full story, and it's absolutely incredible. But
Wow.
if people want more support, because that is like the key, how can they contact you? How can they book a call with you and get like consultation?
Okay. So you can reach me at the LDS Fruitarian on Instagram, and you can message me there. You can join my group on Facebook called Utah Fruitarians. Well, actually, don't join that group because that's if you're in Utah. So don't
Okay.
join that.
I'll put a
Like
link
it.
below. I'll put a link below for a
Yes.
calendar that they can schedule
Yeah.
it.
Okay. That'd be
Cool.
great. Yeah, I'd love to help people.
Amazing. Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I know you've got to run, so take care. And thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you. Everyone that's out there, this is the way. This is the way. You can do it.
And if you're still hesitant, if you're still maybe skeptical, just don't believe us then. Look into nature and ask yourself, what does every other animal eat? Are they eating fully raw or are they eating cooked food with salt? Every other animal,
Exactly.
including the insects, are eating fully raw.
Exactly. And the ones that do eat processed cooked foods, like our pets, they die from the same diseases we do.
Yep. Done. Mic drop. Boom.
Boom.
Hey, speaking of mics, you performed very beautifully at the Woodstock Fruit Fest. If your
Yeah.
song is available, send it to me. I'll also put it down below as a link. People can listen to your music because your song about fruits and vegetables is super cool.
I just got the video, so I'm going to put it online. And that being said, I'm a music artist. I have a YouTube channel called Lara Johnson Music, and I'm releasing a new song on Easter Sunday called Where Are You God? So follow me, please subscribe. And you can follow me at Lara Johnson Music, Lara Johnson on YouTube, on Facebook as well. Sorry, and
I'll
Instagram.
put all your links below.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I would appreciate that
Take
so,
care.
so much.
Have a great hike in the mountains.
I will. Thank you. And thanks, Ted. I just have to say, you are wonderful. You are a wonderful human being. And I appreciate you so much for everything that you're doing in this world to help people, because I know that you're a pure soul that loves people and wants to help people. Like, I really get that from you. So please know that you are an angel helping so many people out there. So thank you for everything you do. And thank you for interviewing me.
I can see you being on a lot of documentaries in the future when people make a documentary about like healing and
Please.
raw foods. I can see you being one of like the cast members with the beautiful screen behind them and polished light and everything. So we'll see you in a
Please.
documentary soon, I'm sure.
Hey.
Cool. All right, peace. Have a great day.
Bye, you guys.
Bye bye. Cheers.
Thank you.